Hey everyone, Gill Gross here. Post-match, Stefanos Tsitsipas versus Taylor Fritz, Australian Open 2024, fourth round. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video. Big win for Taylor Fritz, his first top 10 win in a major, his first Australian Open quarterfinal, revenge for a loss he took to Tsitsipas at this very tournament 2 years ago. Fritz wins it in 4. Pretty emphatically, if I must say so myself. You look at the third set and the fourth set, particularly the fourth set, it felt like as the match went on, Fritz was only creating more and more separation. And in the fourth set, it was 6-3, but it was actually 2 breaks of serve. Tsitsipas didn't even make Fritz serve it out. So this was a really, really great performance from Taylor. It is a result that I projected coming into the event. But part of the reason I projected that was because of Tsitsipas's back injury concerns. And I actually think that Fritz, the way this all played out, deserves a little bit more credit than that. Because if you look at how Tsitsipas played against Bergs, not so much, but Jordan Thompson, and Thompson played really well in that match. And then Luca Van Asch, the young Frenchman, Steph was bringing a really good level. And I thought he brought a lot of the same stuff to this match. It's just a much more difficult matchup. And the biggest difference is the power. I mean, the firepower that Fritz brings on the serve and off the ground, night and day from Tsitsipas's first 3 opponents. And I think that's a big part of why Taylor Fritz feels confident in this matchup against Tsitsipas. I mentioned the 5-setter 2 years ago. I think Taylor had his chances to win that match, and his nerve management was much worse than Tsitsipas's, and I thought that was the biggest difference in that match. Then they played Monte Carlo last year. Tsitsipas wasn't at his best, but Fritz won easily. And then here, Taylor gets the win. I think that Fritz feels very, very confident against Tsitsipas. He even said after the match that he told his team that he's going to win, and Morgan, his girlfriend, thought he was too confident. I don't know that Taylor would have had that confidence against certain other top 10 opponents. Like, would he have felt that way against Novak or against Daniil or even against like Zverev? I'm not sure, but I think in this matchup, he feels like his power, which is what he's most comfortable using, makes a huge difference, and he loves to eat up the Tsitsipas backhand. He really likes to play through it. It gives him, again, a clear plan when it comes to patterns. He's very good at finding it because his backhand cross court is excellent, and he's very good at attacking off of Tsitsipas's backhand. He is comfortable stepping in and hitting backhands down the line off of Tsitsipas's cross-court backhand. He's comfortable hitting forehands inside in if Tsitsipas's cross-court backhand is a little bit short or too central. So those are patterns that come up over and over again that I think Fritz feels like he has in the bag. But ultimately, the key is that Taylor doesn't need to be creative in this matchup. If some of you watched, I encourage you, if you didn't, to do so. If some of you watched my breakdown of Auger-Aliassime versus Medvedev last night, a big theme of that was ways that Felix can win a point or lack of ways. And it requires, playing Medvedev, it requires a bit of creativity. Fritz would struggle in that department because he doesn't love to be creative. What does he love to do? He loves to use his power. He loves to hit huge. And Tsitsipas is an opponent who can be beaten with the linear power, pace, and depth through the middle of the court. That's what really stood out to me watching this match. It's how many errors Fritz was able to draw just by using his power through the middle of the court, just with pace and depth, beating Tsitsipas into big targets in the middle. And that's where you want to be as a tennis player. You want to feel like you can hit to safe targets and inflict damage. And that's where you get that confidence in your repeatability. And then the key also to that for Fritz is that he needs to let loose on the forehand. That's the big barometer for him. When he's playing poorly, when he's getting upset early on in majors, it's because he's playing with fear and he's not letting that forehand go. and the pace is at 85% instead of 100%. That's what he can't allow to happen. And in this match, the entire time, he was swinging away and knocking the cover off of the tennis ball. That's how he needs to play. And against Tsitsipas, that pace absorption can be lacking sometimes. And that's what I think why it's a good matchup for Fritz. From an execution standpoint, the serve and the backhand down the line stood out for Taylor. If you have to pinpoint, the two things that I thought made the difference, particularly in the third and the fourth set when he started to pull away. The first one is increased backhand down the line frequency. I think this was huge and a great adjustment by Taylor. And the reason why this is so important is because Tsitsipas has success in this matchup when he gets his forehand into play. When Tsitsipas gets his forehand into play, Fritz really struggles because of the movement. Tsitsipas's forehand against Fritz's defense, that's a mismatch. A really big one. So Taylor needs to try to avoid that. And in order to avoid that, you must hit into the Tsitsipas forehand. You have to hit into the forehand to avoid the forehand. But you have to hit there with venom and quality. And you need to take advantage of Tsitsipas's positioning and his natural cheat to his left, looking for the runaround forehand. And you do that with the backhand down the line. If you are Taylor Fritz, and he was guilty of this at times in this match, and you continuously are hitting your backhand cross court, Tsitsipas's movement is unbelievable when it comes to shuffling his feet and finding runaround forehands. I don't think there is anybody in the sport who's quicker than Tsitsipas at doing that. So one of the best adjustment that Fritz made in this match was actually in particular on the second serve return on the ad side. And you can look at two massive points in the third set at 2-3 when Fritz broke serve. He hit a clean winner backhand down the line return off of a Tsitsipas kick serve out wide. But before that, couple break points before that, Fritz hit a cross court second serve backhand return on the ad side. And Tsitsipas, quick as a cat, ran around it and hit a forehand inside in that was either a winner or a forced error. Because when Fritz steps in and gets aggressive on the return and tries to take time away, and the result is that Tsitsipas actually gets to hit a forehand, you're done. You're dead. Because now you're not even in position to defend, and the ball's on Tsitsipas's forehand. So if you go down the line, there's a couple of benefits. First of all, Tsitsipas is always going to be slower to cover that, a little bit slower to cover that corner, because after he hits his serve, he's always looking for a first ball forehand. And then positionally, he's off the center line, right? He's obviously not in the middle of the court after he hits his second serve on the ad side. He's off to the left. So it's even more difficult to get it to his backhand because he's on that side of the court. So go hard down the line if you have the skills to do it, with which Fritz does, and that makes a huge difference. 3-all, third set, same thing. Ad side, second serve to Fritz's backhand. He goes down the line, and Tsitsipas is on the defense and surrenders the short ball. Fritz ends up hitting a nice drop shot off of the short ball. So both of those key break points went the same way. And in general, if you look at the Fritz backhand down the line, I mean, it's just a matter of, in that backhand pattern, you have one backhand that's dangerous and you have one that's not. You can look at the backhand winner count at the end of the match. I know it was 1 for Tsitsipas in the match, and for Fritz, it was at one point I had 8. And I don't know if he hit a 9th, maybe even a 10th, but it was either 8-1, 9-1, or maybe even 10-1. Not even close. Then there's the Fritz serve. And there's always the simple fact in this matchup that if you make first serves into Tsitsipas's backhand, you're in pretty good shape. You're usually not going to get your serve broken if you have the firepower of Taylor, the velocity, the speed on the first serve, and the big power behind it. If you have that and you make first serves into Tsitsipas' backhand return, you're usually going to be all right. You're going to hold on to your serve. And Fritz made tons of first serves in the first set tiebreak. And there was a point in the fourth set where he hit 8 straight serves into Tsitsipas' backhand. Steph only made 1 return in play, and it was a sitter that Fritz easily knocked away for a winner. And that's just one example of a stretch in the match where Taylor is just getting these cheap, easy holds because he's serving well. And I thought he was good under pressure. He was good in clutch situations. And for the match, his percentage ended up being 70%. Excellent. And what did he win on first serve? 86%. 86% first serves won from Fritz. What does that tell you about the quality of the return? Not great. Not great for Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas, on the other hand, there were some issues on the serve. The serve was not consistent. In the third set at 2-3, and this third set felt really important. Momentum, I think both players got a little bit more tired. Both players started getting more returns in play. The quality of serve on both sides went a little bit down, and it felt like there was opportunity to grab momentum in this match at the beginning of the third set. And ultimately at 2-3, Tsitsipas, he had a service game so bad, it was hard. He was asking to be broken. He made 4 of 12 first serves. He double faulted twice on game point. After the second double fault on game point, he missed his next 2 first serves after that at deuce and at out to lose the game. Now, after that game, Tsitsipas started mixing in the pinpoint and the step-up technique. So I think up to that point in the match, it was platform the whole time. And then he starts changing up his technique after he has that horrible service game. In the fourth set, there was a game where he was platform the whole time, and then on break point, he went step up. He missed the first serve. Ultimately, I don't have, obviously, the stats, step up versus platform. But my sense is that the results were not good on the step up. And I would also bring into question, is the idea that he is having to decide what serve technique to use, and he has this doubt and this extra decision to make in his head, does that affect him mentally, even when he is serving platform? If he's pondering, is this the right decision? Like, that is not something that should be entering a tennis player's head in a major fourth round match. What serve technique should I use? So ultimately, I'm critical of this now. When it first happened, and I thought it was probably to protect the back, and he did it against Zigo Bears, I was like, okay, look, this is very bizarre, but I'm just gonna hold my judgment. But to see him mixing it up in such a big match, and it was not effective, I question this. I do. And it strikes me as a little bit goofy. It strikes me as questionable judgment that you would be changing your serve technique in the middle of a match, in the middle of a game sometimes. If you want, and again, the big picture here, right? Like overall, there are some massive things in Tsitsipas' game that he can improve. Arguably, the serve is not, it's just not one of them. So why are we playing around with your strength here when there are other areas that are more important? So I just wanted to kind of say that. Then, of course, there's Tsitsipas' effort to protect his backhand. It was, if I were to say for the whole match and for the whole tournament, Tsitsipas' backhand for him was pretty good, I thought. But in the first set tiebreak, it was the biggest culprit. It was a difference maker, along with Tsitsipas missing some first serves and not having those easy serve +1 points that you really want him to that he wants to have. At 1-1, Tsitsipas hit a bad cross-court trade on his backhand. It allowed Fritz to run around and tee off on a forehand inside in that he drew a sitter on and then put away the next ball. At 1-2, that was the mini break in the first set tiebreak. That was actually a forehand unforced error from Tsitsipas. At 3-2, Fritz up the mini break. Second serve look for Tsitsipas, dumped the backhand return into the net. That's unacceptable. It can't happen. It's a really bad mistake. You're not going to get that many looks at second serve returns. When you do, you got to make the return and get yourself at least into a rally. At 3-5, they got into a backhand exchange. Tsitsipas made an unforced error in that backhand baseline exchange. So those are the 4 mistakes that made the difference in the tiebreak. 3 of them on the backhand, 1 of them on the forehand. Tsitsipas was slicing a lot in this match, executing pretty well on the slice. I saw a lot of good slice backhands. Here's why it didn't matter. Here's why it didn't help him in the match, because the slice is a setup shot, and I've talked about this, I think, before, but I saw the same thing that I saw at times last year. Tsitsipas, when he slices a backhand, he never changes his grip back. So almost always when he slices and you hit it back to his backhand, he slices again. This is like 80% of the time. He gets stuck in his grip. So if he's going to slice the backhand, he needs to learn, like Dimitrov, how to change his grip back to the drive. Otherwise, it's not really getting him anywhere. So you can slice the backhand and get Fritz to lift up on his backhand cross court. But when you get that desired result, how are you attacking the next ball? You can't attack the next ball with another slice. You're not making any progress, right? The one thing he did do well, Tsitsipas did do well out of it, is drop shot. So he held the slice grip. He would hit backhand slice, maybe another backhand slice, and then backhand drop shot. And it was very well disguised because it's the same take back on the slice and the drop shot. So the one thing he did well was hitting the backhand out of that. But he couldn't hit really a drive backhand out of it. And that was kind of killing the effectiveness of it. I'll end on some areas where Tsitsipas was having success. His movement is better than Fritz's, and he has a scrambling ability, and Taylor has not improved the net game. So there were definitely some moments in the match where you looked at Tsitsipas just using his speed around the court, making Fritz play the extra ball, and Taylor doesn't make the volley. Also, just using the big forehand. As always, Tsitsipas' strength with his forehand was very good throughout this match. Very, very good. And he did well serving into Fritz's forehand to set up more of the +1 forehands. And, you know, there are a couple of tactics that worked for Steph that I won't get into because we've gone long enough. But they all had to do with setting up his forehand. That is all I got. Djokovic Fritz is next. Monday Match Analysis this week will be a preview of each and every quarterfinal matchup. I'll also have Djokovic and Manarino post-match. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.